Let's go back to the Viva Energy refinery in Geelong. Joining me is the Energy Minister Angus Taylor. Thanks for your time as always. $250 million to go to our domestic refiners. I'm wondering, have they given you a guarantee that they're going to stay put? They're not going to shut up shop as we've seen from other refiners in recent years?
Yeah, that's right, Kieran. So Viva here, where I am today in Geelong, have committed through to at least 2028. We'd expect it's likely to go longer than that. We want it to go for substantially longer than that because we want to have control over our own destiny. The $250 million investment here allows them to produce the low sulphur fuels that the newest cars need, and that ensures that we have our own refining. We can refine our own crude oil, and we have what we need in the worst possible circumstances, and we have cleaner fuel, Kieran. This is an important part of today's announcements. We know there's over $1 billion of health benefits in having lower sulphur fuels, and what this announcement today allows us to take the sulphur out of the crude oil, which ensures we have cleaner fuels and cleaner air in our cities and right across this great country. So that's what the announcement is doing, but most importantly, it's ensuring we have control over our own destiny in the years to come when it comes to fuel security.
Minister, is there a point where the government should consider, in your view, owning the refineries, nationalising these, given the events of recent months have really highlighted the need for that sort of sovereign capacity?
Well, what this deal we've done with the refineries underscores is that we don't need to, Kieran. I mean, we can have an arrangement with the private sector where they do what they do best. We're not petroleum refiners, but Viva is, and Ampol up in Brisbane is at Lytton. That's what they do best. We want them to be around. We struck an original arrangement with them on the refineries some time back. This is about getting to lower sulphur fuels. They're the ones who know how to do that, but we're making sure they have the support from government necessary to be around. You know, on top of that, of course, Kieran, it's important to point out that we've committed to additional storages for diesel, 780 million litres of additional storage, so we can hold more fuel in the country, and we've increased the mandatory stockholding obligation for the fuel companies. So we have not just the security of having refineries in the country that can refine our own crude oil, but also additional storage, and that's all part of making sure that whether you're a truckie or a tradie, a farmer, a commuter, you have access to the fuel you need to get the job done.
On the growth of the electric vehicle industry, do you see this in the context of being able to be independent from the needs or to have this demand for foreign oil?
Well, you're seeing a much more uncertain world now than even a short time ago, Kieran. I don't need to tell you that, and your viewers obviously seeing that on their TV screens every day and every night, that we are in a far less secure world, and it does mean having control over our own destiny is much more important than it was. That's why we secured up our supplies of AdBlue. That's why we're securing up our supplies of diesel and other liquid fuels. And that's all part of the government's focus on making sure we have control over the supply chains that really count, that keep the economy moving. We face the prospect, if we'd run out of AdBlue, that we would have seen all diesel vehicles or all modern diesel vehicles in this country stopping. We can't countenance that, and that's why we're shoring up these supply chains, making sure we've got Australian manufacturing and Australian processing to support Australians in a time of need.
Electric vehicles also provides that capacity, doesn't it, in terms of if we grow that market share, it provides that independence from the oil demands.
Sure, but we're not going to tell people what kind of car to drive, Kieran. I mean, this is an important part of the Coalition's policy. We want to support the full range of technologies that are emerging on the full range of cars. I mean, part of what we're doing here today is to make sure that Euro 6 vehicles can be brought into the country. They need low sulphur fuels, below 10 parts per million, and that's what this initiative, this investment is ensuring. But it also means we also know people are choosing to buy hybrid vehicles at a very rapid pace. We're going to see the majority of Toyota vehicles being sold in this country in the next little while being hybrids. And then we're seeing this shift, of course, happening to electric vehicles. We want consumers to be able to make those choices. That's why we're investing in the supporting infrastructure investing in the supporting fuels. Only a very short distance from me, right here today, Kieran, is a hydrogen refuelling station. We're investing $250 million in the future fuels strategy, which includes a significant investment in refuelling and recharging infrastructure for electric vehicles. So, this is all part of consumers choosing. We're Liberal National Government. We believe consumers know what kind of car is best for them, but we want them to be able to make whatever choice is best for them.
The investor group on climate change has released a report today on LNG, on gas projects. The report says that, in particular, LNG projects with scheduled production past 2040 are likely to face a rapid decline in offshore demand. Some projects may struggle to maintain positive cash flow after 2030. Is this your view of the gas market, given 3/4 of our gas is exported?
Oh, well, Kieran, I'm not going to make predictions about the gas market. That's for investors to make. What I would say is that we need balance in our fuel system. That means gas is playing an enormously important role. It's balancing up the record levels of investment we're seeing in renewables in Australia, but we're seeing significant investment in renewables around the world. Gas is important to that. Gas is also an important industrial feedstock. I mean, the food we eat every day comes from nitrogen fertiliser, which is primarily, almost invariably, made from gas. So, this is an important fuel source, an important industrial feedstock, will be for many years. Investors will decide what demand will be and how much supply is needed. But we as a government are focused on making sure there is a balance. We're bringing down our emissions. They're 20% down since 2005. They'll continue to come down. We want to make sure there's the broad range of technologies available for consumers and businesses to use, and investors will make the appropriate choices, I'm sure, to make sure we've got the supply we need. But right now the world is short of gas, Kieran. That is the reality. I tell you, the Europeans would take any bit of gas they can get because they're relying 40% of their gas supplies on Russia. Now is not the time to talk down the gas industry because it is needed.
Finally, the Liberal Party's facing a real challenge in the Teal independent seats in Kooyong and Wentworth, backed by Climate 200. Simon Holmes a Court, he said in the AFR that basically you and the Treasurer are obsessed with him in combating Simon Holmes a Court, that you're obsessed with him. What do you say to that critique?
I got no comment to make. I'll leave his comments to him. What I would say is that fake independents are not going to be able to represent the people of those electorates. They won't be in government, and if they are in government, it'll be a Green Labor government, that's for sure, Kieran, and I'd leave it at that. We're focused on making sure we've got a strong economy, a strong Australia, making sure we are investing in the fuel security we need, making sure we're investing in the affordable, reliable supply of fuel, making sure Australians, we're dealing with the cost of living pressures that Australians are facing. There's inflationary pressures all around the world right now, and we need to make sure we're doing our bit as a government, and that's exactly what we're doing, not just with this announcement today, of course, but with the cut to the fuel excise of 22 cents. These are the things that I hear Australians talking about in what they're wanting from government, a government that can actually get on and do the job, and that's exactly what we're doing.
And just before you go, you mentioned that excise cut. Is your thinking, the projection suggesting that the international oil price will fall later in the year, making the resumption of, or the normalising of that excise a bit more palatable?
Well, I'm not going to get into predicting commodity prices today, as I said earlier. What I would say is we've seen a reduction in the pump fuel price. Last week it was sitting on about $1.74 on average across the country. Actually, right here in Geelong now, it's below $1.70 for 91 fuels. So, this is great news. We are seeing significant relief at the Bowser. That was absolutely necessary. But we have been part of a collective action, the biggest action worldwide ever, of 180 million barrels of oil being released onto the market. I wrote to the US Energy Secretary some time back proposing that we be part of this and that there be a collective action. There's only ever been 4 in the history of the International Energy Agency. This is the biggest, Kieran, and that's all about relieving pressures on liquid fuel prices. We are seeing those pressures coming off. We want to continue to see those pressures coming off.